Time for some business news now with our business editor, Charles Pellegrin, who joins me on set. And Charles, today we're going to zero in on France's pension reform plans. The government is expected to present its plan later this Tuesday, but we already have a sense of what's going to be in it.
Absolutely. This has been one of Emmanuel Macron's cornerstone agenda items since his first run for president in 2017. The government says the system is financially unsustainable, meaning there aren't enough contributions for the amount of pensions that are being paid out. So here's how they're hoping to right the ship. First off, they're proposing to raise the legal retirement age when people can claim a full pension from 62 years old to 64 or 65. The minimum contribution period of 43 years or annuities, though, isn't changing. A previous reform from 2014 had set this as an objective for 2035. The new reform would speed this up and bring it forward to 2032. The government will make exceptions, though, for instance, for people who started their careers very early and for professions with a high level of hardship, for instance, where heavy lifting is involved. On the plus side for retirees, the minimum pension will be raised to around 85% of minimum wage, or around 1,200 euros a month. Very likely, though, that this will only apply to new retirees, not existing ones. And finally, the government wants to put an end to specialized pension schemes for different trades or industries, for example, for the Paris transit workers. This would only affect new hires in these professions, but there could still be exceptions. Fishermen and employees of the Paris Opera, for instance, would not see their retirement age pushed back. One of the criticisms of the French pension system is that it's too complicated. There are currently around 40 different specialized pension schemes.
And Charles, one of the goals here is to make the system financially sustainable, but is the actual system really unsustainable?
Well, there's a state advisory body that has looked into this and has made projections for the future. And basically, the system is currently running a surplus. But over the next 25 years, it'll be running a deficit on average. In 2021 and 2022, the pension ran surpluses of over 900 million euros and 3.2 billion euros, respectively. And the whole expenditure represented close to 14% of France's GDP in 2021. But as you can see in that graph, that figure will steadily climb well into the mid-2030s. And this is looking at projections based on different annual growth rate scenarios. These are different colors of lines you can see there. By 2027, the estimation is that there will be a deficit of 12 billion euros for the pension system. The government says that its reform will be able to get these 12 billion euros in additional contributions. It's worth noting, though, that the advisory body's report assesses that pension spending is not out of control. And this has led many opponents of the reform to say it is not as urgent as the government says it is. And perhaps there are other motives at play here, like financing tax cut for businesses.
Yeah, and the projected savings of the plan could also lead to higher costs elsewhere.
That's one of the arguments made by the unions and by opposition parties. The reform will be extremely hard on lower income workers or workers with unstable employment and could end up costing the state more in other areas. For these people, having to work longer or look for work longer could mean more payments in unemployment insurance, more payments in welfare benefits for low-income households, and more payments in paid sick leave. This is what we call a spillover effect, and one estimation sets these costs at close to 3.5 billion euros. The debate and the calculations will continue throughout the year. Once the plan is presented to the public and the cabinet, it'll make its way to Parliament. And of course, there will be marches and protests organized by the unions who all oppose the raising of the retirement age.
Yeah, it's going to be a lively couple of months. And before we let you go, Charles, let's take a look at the markets.
That's right, absolutely. The European indices opening lower this Tuesday, with investors looking ahead to the release of new inflation figures for the month of December in the U.S. later in the week. As you can see there, the FTSE in London down almost 0.5%. The CAC 40 down 0.33%, same for the DAX in Frankfurt. And we saw mixed trading in Asia following gains on the NASDAQ on Wall Street on Monday. The tech stocks in the U.S. moving up as traders estimated that inflation will be easing. You can see the Shanghai Composite up down by 0.2%.
Right, Charles, thank you very much for that business update and for taking us through the nitty-gritty of France's new retirement reform. It's